Hi, I'm Odin. This is DIY Prop Shop, where we recreate props using everyday materials without breaking the bank. So let's do this! Today we're going to build the chainsaw machine gun from Gears of War. This is the Mark II Lancer assault rifle with chainsaw bayonet. Looking at the gun, it's got a pistol grip, it's got sights across the top, a very large clip here in the back, which is also the housing for the chainsaw. The only thing round is the pass-through that he holds with his hand. Everything else is flat. And there's a flashlight in the front. So I'm going to be able to use a toy gun for the back, build out the body using foam core, and I'm going to use fun foam for the chain. Yeah, this is going to be easy. So I went out and picked up a few items. First off, I picked up a Stormtrooper blaster. I like this because it's got the same type of pistol grip. It doesn't have any sort of like stock on the back. We'll just have to cut the scope off, and by the time we're done, we'll be able to hit something with it. So I talked about using foam core. This is foam core, and it's available in two different thicknesses. This one's a 1/4 inch thick, which we'll be able to use for building the majority of the body of the gun, and then it's also available in a 1/2 inch thickness. And this is what I want to use for the clip on the bottom, and the motor housing goes in the side of the chainsaw, and by just cutting it out of this, I don't actually have to make a box out of the thinner stuff. And to make the chainsaw, I picked up some fun foam. This stuff is pretty cheap. It's only $1 a sheet. I got the thick stuff here. This is a 1/4 inch thick. I plan on using this for the teeth of the chainsaw. And then I picked up one sheet of this 1/8 inch thick. This lighter stuff I'm going to use for some of the details that go on the body of the gun. I also picked up some final items from the dollar store. I picked up this paint roller because I want to use the handle for the side grip on the gun. Found a little flashlight I'll be able to put on the front of the gun. And then there's a pen. This pen I liked because I'll be able to take the guts out of it and use it as a flash suppressor that goes in the barrel of the gun. So with that, let's get started. Looking at this, I don't need this part, so that can come off. That was tough. So I'm gonna use a hacksaw, take the scope off the top. This isn't really working for me. I mean, I'm getting there, but this is cutting into the gun. Then don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just remember what Hoffman says. Learn from your mistakes, men, but don't give up. I think I'm gonna take a regular hacksaw blade. I'll just take it actually off the hacksaw. Now if you do this, you gotta be careful because you gotta hold on to it, but don't drag your hand on it because you'll cut yourself. That was a lot easier. There's a particular shape here in the back of the clip. I'm just gonna cut this off the gun and use it. Yeah, that'll be all right. So I should be able to break it from here. There we go. I might be able to use the barrel as one of the scopes. As I look at it, I'm thinking I'm gonna need to take these off. So now that I've got that cleaned up, I think the first part I'm gonna make for the gun is the clip. In order to do that, I'm gonna measure how big my actual pistol grip is and compare that to how big the pistol grip is on my screen here. So I'll have to blow up whatever this is by 25%. Going for the back of the clip, probably about 3 inches. So I'm just gonna mark off 3 3/4 inch on my 1/2 inch foam core. There we go. 3 3/4. So now that I have my 2 pieces of foam core cut, I'm gonna be able to glue them together to make it the proper thickness for the clip of the gun. Now that I've got my clip attached, I'm gonna make the housing for the chainsaw that goes in the front. Just trying to make sure I'm matching it up so it's the same on both sides. Just gonna cut another piece to fit in here. I'm gonna use a 1/2 inch thick foam again. Now I'm just gonna cut one of those to go on the other side. So the piece I cut off from the gun earlier, I want to use that on the back of the clip. There's a small piece that goes down here. I'll just cut that out of the thin stuff. Let's start building the back of the gun up. It's got kind of a terrace shape coming up the back here, so I'm gonna take a piece of the thin stuff. One of the cool things about this build is both sides of the gun are nearly identical. So once I get one piece cut out of foam core, I can trace it, cut out the other one, and I'm good for both sides. Now I'm gonna cut the top piece. Thankfully, on the real gun, if you wanna call it real, it's just flat. And we'll just keep making marks and folding the foam core all the way up and over the top. And that's the basic shape of the back of the gun. Now I need to continue out the front. So I cut these 3 parts, and I'm going to put on the underside here to help give support for these so they're not as floppy. I have an old poster tube, and that looks like it's going to be exactly the right fit. And what I want to do is make a cut in the tube so it can fit around the Stormtrooper gun and actually match up to where the clip is. I got to make sure that when I glue it on straight. So if I cut my tube at this point, I'll have this much left over that I can add to the front. So I'm just going to set the tube down, put the ruler next to it, flat on the table, and now I know I just need to cut here. I'm going slowly, carefully with multiple cuts so I don't slip and catch my fingers with the blade. Now I'm also going to need to take and put a cap on the end here, as well as on this side. And now I've got a place for my chainsaw to go. I'm going to use the thick fun foam for that. So I'm just going to cut the jagged edges out of this and then put foam core on either side. And that's going to attach pretty much right here. Now as I look at this, I'm a little concerned that this is going to be a little tight. And that's a textbook example of what not to do. But luckily I can fix this. So I think I'm going to glue it on down a little bit to make the space here bigger for my fingers, and I'll just cut some detail parts to hide the gap. Got some of the major details taken care of. What I need to worry about is getting the top filled in. I need to make a little raised section back here for the rear sight. I need to make a little piece for the front sight and add the barrel to the gun. And then I can cover the sides of the details. So the front barrel of the gun, this is what I bought the pen for. I actually managed to pick this pen up half off because it's missing one. Whatever. See, does it unscrew? It does unscrew. Actually, it'll look a lot better that way. Where's the hacksaw? There we go. I'm going to cut a circle into this piece to actually put the barrel into it. I'm afraid if I just glue it to the surface, it'll just fall off. Now for the big rear sight, what I'm thinking about using was a leftover barrel from the Stormtrooper gun. Now for the front sight, the neck to my water bottle. Now to cut this off. These 2 little pieces in the front and the back should really help hold that in place. To mount the front sight, I'm just going to make a little cross with foam core. Before I start cutting up the thin foam to put a bunch of little panels on this, the last 2 big parts, I need to put a flashlight here and the secondary handle here. That's what the paint roller was for, was to be the handle. I have my flashlight. Trying to be careful to make sure that my switch is still on the outside. That'll go on right over here. I think I probably should put my other pieces on first. I'm going to use the cap of a highlighter pen to make marks directly into the foam. Now I know where to cut. If I continue doing this type of foam work all down the sides, I can get a lot of really good detail and make this gun look really good. But the last major piece I got to make, there's a round piece that goes right here on both sides. In order to make that, I'm just going to use the bottom of my water bottle. I'm worried about how thin the plastic is in the water bottle. So what I want to do is cut a ring of foam core to put in the bottom and then in turn glue it to the gun. In order to make additional details into my little foam pieces, I'm going to use a hole punch. And then the leftover parts I can use for rivets. And now we can take this outside and paint it. I'm just going to use flat black paint, cover the whole thing. All right, it's been a couple minutes. The paint's dry. Let's go paint the detail. So the first thing I want to do is attach the flashlight. In order to paint this, I'm just going to use some basic craft paints, water-based paints. I'm going to give it a good liberal coat of gray and then dry brush it silver and add other details as I see fit. One of the benefits of this style of painting, it's really difficult to screw this up. The paint will actually dry darker than it looks, and you can always just apply more, and I can put more black on top of it if it's too bright. And this is my Mark II Lancer assault rifle with chainsaw bayonet. This thing's gonna be perfect for chewing up a locust horde. Not too bad for just under $24. I like it. Let us know in the comments below what other projects we should do. And if you try any of these builds yourself, send us a picture at DIYPropShop@break.com. And don't forget to subscribe or else. And say hello to my little friend.
And before you go, we'd like to thank Go90 for sponsoring this episode. Click the link below to watch primetime shows, live music, and sports, plus the best of the web.